Hey gang, looking today at the SOG Powerlock. This is to the SOG range of multi-tools, kind of what the super tool is to the Leatherman range of multi-tools. Just kind of their most basic in design, and sort of the one with the most usual type of features on it, so no real surprises here. It's got a couple of obvious SOG flourishes, as you can probably already see from the outside. It has the SOG gear system, which they love telling us about. Apparently it doubles the strength of the pliers, so you need to put less input from your hand to get the same amount of input in the grip. And as far as other little odds and ends go, it's got a bit of branding on the side and on the front, and I think unique to these, it's got these doors, these tool covering doors. This is a heavy duty type multi-tool. It's certainly not designed for everyday pocket carry. This is more of a sort of toolbox replacement style multi-tool, very similar to perhaps the Victorinox Swiss tool. You can see they're sort of about the same size, about the same weight as well. The Swiss tool might, no, I'd suggest they're almost the same. Swiss tool may have a little bit of weight on it, but not a great deal. And in the same size category as the Leatherman Surge, which has a more sort of advanced design, I would suggest. Just having a few extra little bits of thought put into the design. Let's go through the tools, do a tool review. So when you open it up, you get pliers. These are pretty good pliers, they're very smooth to open. There's none of that sort of, with these you get clicks there, and then clicks there, then clicks there. There's none of that. It is one smooth motion from open to close. Quite firm, these ones. Some of them, and I think probably, you can sort of flick these if you put a bit of oil and perhaps loosen them up a little bit. I had a pocket power plier that you could really flick and play with, and it was great fun. So the pliers are good. They've got a bit more of a rounded tip. I think it's the SOG polishing process that tends to round these tips off a bit. And again, even the knurling for the bolt turning portion of the pliers, a little bit rounded, but still effective enough at turning bolts. And then the wire cutters below, there's just the one type of cutter, so just one straight flat bypass type wire cutter, but in company with these this gear system you shouldn't have any problem cutting thick wire. Inside the handles, which is where the tools are, there's no outside opening tools. All inside, internal to the handles, you need to butterfly the tool open. You get a file, which I don't use a great deal. Files on multi-tools very rarely find use for me. Perhaps it's more employment or hobby specific, but don't usually get a great deal of use out of me for the files. You get an awl or a punch. That's a great tool to have around the house. You need these at random times just to get things. Often it's just to add another hole in a belt, or alter a little bit of fabric or something on the go. Pretty handy little thing. This one's particularly sharp on the point. Not as good at gouging or digging, I found, as the Victorinox one, which is definitely the standard for these multi-tool awls. The next tool is a very nice three-dimensional Phillips head screwdriver. Turns screws without any issues at all. The other tools sort of fit snugly in that recess, so you see there. That's the flat head, that's the flat blade, just sort of slides up. It just fits underneath there, so that's a cool little bit of design there. All these tools are locking with this back lock bar. You see here, it just pulls up, and the lock notches fall into that. Easily done. Next tool is the can opener, which again, a bit of a superfluous. These are sort of just on multi-tools, I suspect, because it's like an extra tool to put on there, to say you've put on there. Little driver at the end might be useful, but I very rarely use a can opener. And then you've got the saw. That's a pretty good saw. It's at least, unlike lots of multi-tool saws, it's at least a proper saw, so it's quite thick on this end with the teeth. It's actually got double teeth, and then quite thin on the spine, so it does taper upwards to a thinner point, so it will cut effectively and won't get bound up on things. I'll just roll in some footage of me cutting with the saw now. Whether or not you'll keep these doors on, I'm not sure. You can pop them off really easily and pop them back on, easier still. But it's a certainly an improvement on the comfort of the pliers if you're going to be using the pliers a fair bit. Let's pop the other side open and have a look. You get a knife blade. This is a combo edge knife blade, so you don't get the two knives, you get just one. And this is a serrated and a flat blade. Now, what I've noticed with this lock system is, as you probably just saw there, the knife, because the tools clump, it is a bit tricky to see. Right now, as soon as the other tools are out, the lock is disengaged. So you need to make sure all the tools are out that you want out, and then put your thumb on them and then allow it to close. And even still, a little bit dicky there. So probably not something I'd be using a knife on a great deal, just because it's a little bit frustrating to make sure it's locked. Three other tools on this side here. You get a bottle opener slash larger flat driver, which is a fairly useful tool, and then you get this universal bit adapter. So it's got these springs on the side here, which are supposed to fit a sort of driver extender arms in the bottom. So again, having sort of some issues with the lock bar on this side. All it takes is one of these tools to be slightly out of place, and yeah, it's just not quite engaging there. A little bit sort of. So that is definitely not a powered lock, is it? So that should be locked. The bar is in the back part. There we go, that's better. So a little bit dicky, I must say. You get a really good pair of multi-tool scissors though on the Powerlock. One of the better pairs I've seen. Got a really cool little spring design there. Very, very cool. The spring sort of makes the tool a little bit wider because it runs parallel to the tool a little bit, but it really kicks those scissors back when you chop with them, so you don't have to worry about them getting bound up even, because the spring will generally push them out again, which is good. Push them open. So that's that. What do I think of this tool? Well, I think this tool is just thoroughly outdone by its competition. If you're noticing before those tool sizes, when you look at the things you get, say let's just take the most basic of tools, let's just have a look at the knife, right? So that's the knife on this tool, and on a tool that weighs the same, the Leatherman Surge, the knife is just beefier and of higher quality. It's a single edge. You get a serrated edge knife on a different pivot, just better and bigger and stronger tools, and just more trustworthy. And that's kind of the go with all of these. What you get on the SOG, it's a bit of a strange mix. You get full-size big pliers, which I guess is good, but then all the little tools are all sort of mid-sized and belong sort of on the mid-sized multi-tools. So say this file, for example, that's probably one of the bigger tools. You just look at what, say, the Leatherman gives you on the rebar. It's actually probably got more working area. It just seems the rebars are a sort of smaller or mid-sized multi-tool, and it just seems like it matches the Powerlock for tool for tool in terms of size and even function. So, in fact, if you look at these two together, this is my rebar I've had for a long time now. If you look at these tools together, sure you get slightly bigger pliers on the SOG, but even then, not hugely. Slightly longer arms on the SOG for sure. You get a lot more weight on the SOG. And then you get pretty much the same size tools inside the rebar. All the rebar doesn't have that the SOG does have is the scissors. And then the rebar is releasing with scissors this year anyway, so knifeless but with scissors, which is a very good idea. So even the rebar, which is in a size category below the SOG, beats it at being a multi-tool. Let alone when you start to look at the tools which it directly competes with now, such as the Victorinox Swiss tool. And this Swiss tool is a little bit more than the SOG, the Powerlock, but not so much more that it would make for a different price class or not being able to compete. Because yeah, it's probably about 100 say in America it might cost you $110. SOG will probably cost you about $70 or $80. In Australia this is about 110 new, this is about 150. So $40, yeah, I guess it's somewhat of a difference, but the quality level is just so much higher. You don't, all the tools are just, they're big and they're well thought out and they're fully realised. So even that's the Phillips driver on the Swiss tool. It's long, it's full, it doesn't feel like any concessions have been made. Very clever that they've been able to fit, you know, this little Phillips driver on the SOG there, but it just isn't anything in comparison to the one Victorinox have managed to fit on. Plus their outside opening tools, so it's got that sort of factor of modernness to it. So this one is really comfortable to grip without needing doors or gates here, because they've got all the tools accessible without even opening up the pliers. You got the Leatherman Wave, which is sort of even more kind of fast action or dynamic. This one they've chosen 4 tools to be one hand opened. Yes, you can open everything on the outside with one hand. The scissors are bigger and better even, and they've got a more comfortable tab to use your thumb on. Plus you get the really strong 154 cm wire cutters, which are replaceable as well on the head. So this is another tool that's probably only a little bit more than the Powerlock, but just completely outdoes it in terms of performance. I like the Powerlock because I'm a bit of a multi-tool buff and a bit of a multi-tool collector. The gadget factor is just outstanding because it is really, really nice to play with. Nice and smooth, but all the tools just don't quite measure up to the ones on even the rebar, which is a size class below, let alone when you're comparing it to the others that it's directly competing with for weight and really price. You'll pay a little bit less for this than these two, but then again you'll pay about the same for a Leatherman Super Tool 300, which pretty much has this head with these tools minus the scissors for about the same price and much higher quality level. So I'm afraid I'd have to say, unless you're a collector, probably give the SOG Powerlock a bit of a miss, unless you really, really like the specific design or look of this multi-tool. And that'll do us for now. Thanks so much for watching, dudes. I'll see you later.